His name is John Diggle, and he is the
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Hey guys, just finished watching Arrow Season 6, Episode 4, Reversal. This episode was pretty interesting and part of the whole, John Diggle as Green Arrow type thing. Although this episode was more of a Felicity episode, which is kind of interesting with this episode being such a Felicity heavy episode, since we know that next week's episode of Flash, we'll be getting Felicity over on there, joining over for Iris's bachelorette party and all that stuff. So I'm assuming that since she's in this episode a lot, she's probably not going to be in next week's episode of Arrow or anything like that. So it's just pretty interesting to see how things go and there's all the different things that happen in this. But I couldn't help but wondering the times when we had Oliver, as Overwatch in the bunker doing on the comms and stuff like that. Being Overwatch and stuff, I couldn't help but think of William and stuff like that. And what is interesting, the whole thing, with dealing with William in the past few episodes, and the whole reason why John Diggle is the Arrow is that, he's not, is so that Oliver can be with his son, and then him not being with his son when he had the option, and there's no repercussions of it in this episode, kind of defeats the whole purpose of this whole thing, and his son is getting to the age. I don't know how. I think his son is about 10 years old and stuff. He's just getting to know Oliver and all that stuff. And I would like to see him. He's involved with see his son. Maybe Oliver's more and more with his son, and Oliver trusting his son more and more. And all that stuff to make sure that he's safe and know that he's doing the right thing, even though on the TVs and the news they might be portraying the Green Arrow and all that stuff as doing the bad stuff and being the bad guy and all that stuff. I would really like to see him kind of not necessarily telling William what's going on and what they're doing and all that stuff, but not hiding it from him anyways, type of thing. So if Diggle comes over and needs to talk to him about this or that, or Renee comes over to say we're talking about this and that, or things like that, he doesn't hide it from William and stuff. And William being around 10 years old or getting up there and stuff, realizing that he's helping. Maybe he doesn't understand what he's doing, but he realizes that the Green Arrow and the team are actually helping people and stuff like that. And I would like to see, William's perspective on this whole thing, as from an outsider and stuff like that, and maybe a bit of his mother's opinion on things like that. And then I would like to see maybe as things progress, maybe William wanting to try and join the team and stuff. That could be an interesting thing for a few seasons down the road, type of thing. So it is an interesting episode. This one's dealing with Helix and having all these different people coming back and stuff, and Elena coming back, and Curtis and Felicity looking for something to start up and stuff, and they're deciding to do the whole spinal chip implant. That was a cool idea. But I couldn't help but think of this episode dealing with the internet and trying to take down the internet and having Black Siren around. It would have been a great episode if they could have had, if they still had Brian and Ralph the Atom, Ray Palmer around, and then he could have, jumped into the wirings and do that classic Atom thing, which he still hasn't done in any of the shows. Riding the telephone wire, riding the technology within the telephone wires, just like he did in the comics and stuff. So, in here it would have been cool to see that, but it's definitely going to be fun to see where things go in this. I was kind of interested to see that there was no setup for Felicity to go over, to the Flash. There was no her getting invited or anything like that, like maybe an e-bite or a text or something saying, hey, come on over to bachelorette party type thing, and she's like, oh, I gotta go to this type thing, or I thought she was gonna end this episode kind of like after all the stress of this episode and her dealing with all this stuff and the stress of her, going back on her word because she caused this thing and let this guy free to be able to do this stuff. I think, her taking some time and going over to the Flash would be a good, perfect opportunity to do that, and getting an invite or text or whatever from Iris, Caitlin, Barry, one of those two, inviting them to Iris's bachelorette party would be a perfect opportunity to set that up. To, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to take this opportunity to go and do this because I just need to take a break from this a little bit right now. I'm overwhelmed with it. She does talk about it, how in this episode she is overwhelmed with it, but there's no setup for the thing, which is kind of disappointing. So maybe we'll get that in next week's episode of Arrow, because maybe the episode of Arrow kind of takes place a little bit before episode of Flash, because that would be confusing time-wise, instead of just having it play out like this episode, setting up for Tuesday coming up to for her to be on the Flash. But this episode was pretty cool. Interesting seeing Black Siren around. And definitely can't wait to see where this Clayton James guy comes from. I'm hoping that Clayton James, maybe he could have a tie to someone over on the Flash, and I'd love to see the two, because we haven't really set up our big main villain. I mean, the main villain for this season for Arrow so far is Laurel Lance, Black Siren type thing. So I would like to see some sort of connection between the two. Maybe she's also partnering up with Clayton James. Maybe Clayton James is being run by the Thinker and stuff, and I feel like the Thinker should be smart enough to be able to deal with, he's doing this in Central City, he's doing this in Star City, he's doing this in this city, all kinds of things like that, and running two different cities side by side to have him trying to do two things at once. I think that would be a cool idea, a cool aspect. Even if we just get, without ever seeing the characters cross over or anything like that, all you need is phone calls, text messages, emails, even video chatting would be so simple, because all you have to do is record it on a simple computer screen, and you watch them over their shoulder, do Skype and something like that, or on the phone or whatever. Video chatting doesn't need to be high quality. The actors don't even need to leave their sets or anything, leave Arrow or Flash set to go to do it. They just do it, send the video, and it works. I think it would be a perfect way to have both seasons tie into each other, and I think that would be awesome, because Flash and Arrow are the only two that are in the same universe, but they're also in the same timeline. I mean, you got Legends doing its own thing, and you have playing with time and stuff, which doesn't affect this, which is kind of disappointing. Then you have Supergirl, who's on her own 32 or 38, which can't affect any of this. So I think it would be cool to see these two connecting. We'll have to wait and see, because I don't feel like we still haven't had, like I said, a big season villain. We don't have a Damian Dark, we don't have a Slade Wilson, we don't have a Malcolm Merlin or anything like that in this season. It would be different to not have one, maybe do something different and stuff, and dealing with different issues and stuff. But there's no end goal. The end goal has always been to defeat Slade Wilson, to defeat Damian Dark, to defeat Malcolm Merlin, all these things like that, and there's no one to defeat and stuff. Now I think it would be cool to see little different things, and the Thinker could be someone to defeat, and the teams, the two Flash and Arrow teams, if he's both of their season villains, that would be a cool way to see them separately, trying to get separately but yet together, try and take on the same villain. I think that would be an awesome way to bring these two things together, because there's so many possibilities and ways that I can think of how they can do it without having to actually cross over. Use phone calls and things like that, but the only thing is we need to see both sides of the same phone call on either shows. The actors don't have to go and see each other, anything like that. They can just Skype and just do that all the time. That would be awesome. And also, I don't know why Felicity, when she's thinking of a name and stuff for her startup, why does she go to Cisco? I mean, just text Cisco. How awesome would it be as if she was texting him, and then the next week on the Flash, we go, Felicity's thinking of a name. I got to think of this, and just be that thing that he's thinking about a name throughout that whole name for their startup throughout the whole thing. That would be awesome. And wouldn't they also want his help on things and pieces here and there? He could join as a side project, sending them code over the internet. I mean, there's tons of people who do things like this and never even meet and stuff like that on the real world. So I think it would be really cool to see if they had included him in it. I mean, a FaceTime video, even just a phone call with just his voice and stuff. So simple things like that you don't need, you don't need to actually make it difficult to do it. You just do it, and it would be so simple. It's always difficult for all the crossovers to get everyone together for scheduling and all that stuff, film everything all at the same time. But these little things could be so easy to do if they just did it and stuff. So, yeah, that's what I wish they were doing in these shows. So this episode on its own was a good episode, pretty interesting and stuff. It's fun seeing the different people doing stuff, and going to see how how much we get to see of Elena more. I think it's Elena her name. And see where things go with that. But I kept on worrying, one of the things that kind of bugged me of this was when they found out that these people who Black Siren was killing were too clean and stuff like that. They must be to cover for something because they're too clean and all that stuff. The first thing they think of is, getting Felicity to hack through it, because that's obviously what they did and stuff. But Diggle's married to the head of Argus. How does he not know to just go and say, hey, I'm going to get Lila and stuff like that? I mean, I don't know if the actress who plays Lila is busy on another show. I'm assuming she is, because we haven't seen her in this thing at all in a long time. But you don't need to actually see her. She can just be like, oh, I'll get Lila. And then the next thing we come back and, during the commercial break, he's gone Lila and gotten the information from Lila without even seeing her, or a text message, a phone call without hearing her voice, same thing. I just didn't understand why you didn't just, she didn't just use, when Argus have the records of that and stuff, and he could use Lila to do that. Don't know. I'm just wondering if there's a reason why that's not happening anymore. And also with Diggle doing this, supposedly still shooting up this stuff to shooting up with the drugs to stay straight for his tremor and stuff. We need to see Lila's opinion on that. She's his wife. I mean, for God's sakes, we need to see what she's, how he's hiding it from her and all that stuff. And it'd be cool to see her notice it, before anyone else, because she is his wife and stuff, and wouldn't the drugs wear off, because he would take the drugs just before going out in the field, and then he might come home while it's wearing off, and she might notice. I think that would be when he would get caught and figuring out how to do this. I think that would be interesting, and she would probably even notice the big sums of money that keep going out of their bank account when he withdraws how much ever he needs to buy these things to shoot up, which we didn't even see him do it again in this episode, which we should have. But I guess we're going to have to wait to see when that gets resolved or anything like that. But it's going to be fun to see when that comes back and something like that, because it's going to be interesting to see. But hopefully we get to see Lila in there, because I think they really want to see her opinion on all of this and stuff. So let me know what you think, guys, about this episode in the comments below. So much I went on. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
I'm Captain America, here to talk to you about one of the most valuable traits a soldier or student can have.
Subscribing.
Sometimes it's the key to victory. Sometimes it leads to very little, and it seems like it's not worth it. And you wonder why you waited so long for something so disappointing. How many more of these?
You're still here.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Peace.
It's over.